Nice to have you with us finally on a Tuesday program here on Mad Dog Unleashed. First and foremost, it's good to be back on the air after a major problem, and we give Steve Torrey all the credit in the world for putting us all back to sleep. No, I'm serious. Steve did a hell of a job of short notice to pop in there for 20 minutes or so and fill us in. They're going to blame it on me, the engineering department here at Sirius, the Joshes, the Robs, Colin Schmelling, Eddie Erickson. They're all going to, Eric Spitz, they're all going to blame our Russo, technically, blah, blah, blah. All I know is when I went off the air last night at 6 o'clock, I turned off the machine, and I didn't turn off the machine. I pressed the button, and I went downstairs to have my wife's chicken parmesan, and I probably shouldn't have done that, but I went downstairs to have the chicken parmesan, and I watched the basketball. I had two bets going. I watched them both, so you can't tell me I was in a bad mood. I did nothing to the machine all day. I come up here at 2:45. I'm having a nice conversation with my son, Colin, who should be sitting there studying at Wisconsin. Instead, he wants to talk about Nebraska, Miami, 84, and the death of Howard Schnellenberger, which somehow I forgot yesterday, which is a terrible job on my part. And I put the machine on, and obviously when you go to where you're supposed to go, A21 or 29A1, whatever it's called, local busy. Colin panics. He's there late. We go out. We disconnect. We connect. We do this. We do that. Finally get it connected about 3:08, 3:09, and then I can't hear anything because the modulations are all screwed up and the buttons are not pressed in right, and I have not touched the apparatus except turning off the little on and off button since yesterday at 6 o'clock. Now, they're going to blame me. Like they blame, oh, Russo's an idiot. He don't know anything. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm blaming the equipment. And here's what I'm going to tell Sirius. All right, they did a nice job after we went in and out with the Optimum thing. They finally got him to fix the Optimum line here about a month ago, and Eddie Erickson had to come up on a Saturday to get an Optimum in so he wouldn't have a 5-second delay when I'm talking to Roger McGuinn. So he finally took care of that problem. And now here's what I'm going to tell Sirius. They have an apparatus here that is ancient. I saw Torrey here the Sunday of the Selection Sunday, and his apparatus was state-of-the-art, fast and foremost. He's on for 1 hour, and I'm on for 3. And I'm making whatever I'm making, and believe me, he's making what he's making. So why don't we switch it? Why don't we give him my piece of garbage, and I'll take his? This is nobody's fault, but the machine should not collapse in a period of time. I have nobody here helping me. Eddie's sitting here trying to figure out his car, so he's finished. I got Colin, who's got 2 little kids at home. Teve's trying to babble about the NCAA games, and my wife, who's taking care of 2 dogs, 4 children, and all the computer stuff, very busy woman, has got to come up here because I'm screaming out the window, cursing my head off to fix the stupid machine. And it took her 25 minutes. So the idea that she come up here in 5 seconds and, presto, fixed, which tells you I was wrong, is incorrect because I went downstairs and had a beer when she came up here and got the thing fixed, which took that long. And we had a wonderful show lined up for you today, and we'll still do a decent one. Bill Plunkett, maybe we can squeeze another time on for him. I wanted to do him with the Dodgers. I certainly wanted to spend some time here today on the White Sox with Steve Stone, and I wanted to spend some time with Ron Darling today on the Mets. And all they care about is make sure the camera's on. Well, I like Isaac and all the fellas, but the camera's off now. We're not going to worry about the camera with the videos, me screaming and yelling. The camera is off. The first thing we're going to worry about every day now at 3 o'clock is to get this machine to operate properly so I can come in here in a good mood and do a nice little radio program for you at 65 years of age and call it a night. Nice job, Gene. A vodka tonic, strong, double. Let's go. Oh, my God. My wife said she's calling the local jeweler right now. What an unbelievable, frustrated. And all I want to do is do a talk show. We put Steve in a tricky spot. I yell at everybody, so I feel like a heel. I call Eddie. I said, Eddie, let's get a body up here every day at 3 o'clock so they can get the machine operated properly. So when I walk in, I had the headset on, and presto, we're ready to go. Not that I got to fool around with every little gadget to make sure the modulation is correctly, I can hear myself chat, and all these kinds of things. You're paying me a fortune. Give me equipment that works. We never had this problem with the ISDN lines. But these IP Kodak things, especially when it's dated with Marconi and 21 at KDKA in Pittsburgh, it's the problem. Okay, I got off my system. Now, let me do a normal monologue for you. and get us going as far as the program is concerned. I'm going to start today, and we're going to do a lot of baseball today. I can't break down the Niner quarterback situation with the third pick in the draft. We know about the Dolphins trades. I can't. I refuse. Zach Wilson Jets. I get it. I cannot do that. We have become a football channel. I can't give you football today. 2 days before the baseball season, and with 2 Elite 8 games tonight, and then a Final Four this weekend. I can't. I can't break down the NFL right now. I'm going to break down a little baseball, and I'm going to break down what is a story that is developing here in New York, and this is going to have to be changed with Lindor. Lindor is basically, trying to, I don't know what he's trying to do. I have it from a writer in Cleveland on the TV show that, in fact, he really didn't necessarily want to play in New York. Everybody thought that he wanted to. Big star, Cleveland, shortstop, great personality. The Yankees, how could you not want to play for them? The Mets, new ownership, how could you not want to play for them? But I didn't sign with Cleveland. Wanted to make you think that he wanted to sign with Cleveland, but never did. Now, listen, Cleveland couldn't afford him anyway at these going rates. But, I don't know how serious he ever was of giving them a hometown discount. Regardless, we know how it works in mid-market baseball. Cleveland was going to have to make a decision, and they had to trade him. We get that. But I had a couple of guests on TV this winter who told me unequivocally that in their mind, not that, it's not like they're talking to Lindor, but their sources, whoever they may be, have indicated to him, to the writer, that Lindor did not want to necessarily go to New York. So Lindor comes to New York, all right. He goes to spring training, big trade. The Mets do a nice job, the whole bit. Lindor, of course, got be perfect for Citi Field, the whole 9 yards. Well, he told the Mets sometime during spring training that, his deadline was opening day. That was what his, I'm going to get this done by opening day. I've gone through this 1,000 times. These baseball players are hot stuff. Rizzo's the latest with the Cubs. These players are hot stuff. They somehow think they want to only talk baseball and they don't want to be distracted. I mean, how can you be distracted when a team is giving you $400 million? It's not like they're cutting you after opening day. They're going to pay you after opening day. How is that a distraction? But these players, for whatever the reason, try to tell you that all they care about once the season starts is baseball. And they don't want to talk about contract. Even if some franchise wants to pay their player a fortune, they're okay in spring training. But once April 1st comes around, in this case this year, April 1st, they don't want to deal with anything. Baseball. That's all I want to do. I want to baseball. I want to concentrate on. That's all they ever tell you. Rizzo again with the Cubs this past week. Lindor said the same thing. So he told the Mets sometime in the wintertime that he only wanted to negotiate with the franchise up until opening day. Now, that puts the Mets in a tricky spot. First off, he is, Tatis, there was really no timeline because he was there for the next 5 or 6 years. Rizzo had been a Cub for a long period of time. The Mets are negotiating against themselves, where he only wants to negotiate with Lindor, only wants to negotiate with them up until opening day. The Mets, there's 1 million shortstops coming out after this season. So, the Mets, what are they supposed to do? Negotiate to themselves? Well, we'll offer you this, or you're not going to take that? Okay, I'll offer you that. You're not going to take that? We'll offer you that. We're not going to take that. So the Mets, again, they don't know who they're negotiating with. And Lindor could never stop. He can, say no to $500 million if he wanted to. Well, to make a long story short, Lindor and Steve Cohen, a Met owner, had dinner down in Port St. Lucie. God fortunate they found a restaurant in that town. But they had dinner last Saturday. Lindor almost probably had no choice. He had dinner with Cohen. And for whatever the reason, Cohen 2 days later, which was yesterday, put the offer on the table. They were roughly around 250, 260. He offered 10 years, $325 million. Now, if that is you and me, and that's, more than Machado, that's $9 million less than Bryce Harper from 2 years ago, that is an incredible contract for a 28-year-old shortstop, right? Who, by the way, is money in a lot of ways is based on his position. He's not going to be able to play shortstop when he's 40 years of age. Mookie Betts can play the outfield when he's 40 years of age. Lindor can't do that. And one of the reasons why he's getting paid $35 million a year is because he is a shortstop. Hard to find shortstops like him. Anyway, he countered with 12 years, 375 or so. About $60 million a year more. Now, why would the Mets, who are negotiating against nobody, who have more money than God, who feel they probably could offer that if they had to at the end of the year and still get him because these players go where the most money is, why would the Mets sit there and even accept that? If you're Lindor and you want to play for the Mets and they offer you 10 years, 325, and you want to play for the Mets, you're earnestly into playing for the Mets. You've set a deadline. You told them, I'm not negotiating after opening day. They turn around and listen, they didn't have to. They could have waited to the end of the season. But they, with pressure, there's no pressure on them. They gave them a fair offer. $325 for 10 years. That's $32.5 million a year. And I'm sure that could have been tweaked in some shape, way, or form. And he comes back and says, oh, no. That's not good enough. I want more money than $325 million. I want 300. I'll give you the exact amount. It's more than Betts. And Betts, I think, signed for 365. He wants 385. So there's $60 million apart in 2 years. An extra 2 years at $30 million a year. Now, if you're Lindor and you really are interested in playing for the Mets, and that is what you want to do, get out of Cleveland, play for a team that's got a chance to win every year, play in a big market, play in a town that would probably adore you. New York loves to embrace their athletes. They have embraced many a Met over the year. This Met team's got some personality. They play in a great ballpark. They play in the biggest city in the world. They have a new owner who's got a fortune, and they offered him $325. And his response to that, well, give me $60 million more with an extra $30 million a year for 2 years. That's his response. Does that sound like a guy? Now watch him sign in the next 5 minutes, and I look stupid. But does that sound like a guy to you that wants to play for the Mets? I think he's got his eyes on the Dodgers. The Dodgers have to worry about Seager down the road. Seager is represented by Boris. They have to worry themselves about the Dodgers. I think, the Dodgers have to worry about Seager, but if Seager doesn't sign, the Dodgers can go Lindor. It helps the Dodgers because they can sign Lindor. But the essence of this story is that I don't think Lindor wants to play for the Mets long term. That's what I don't think. Either that or he's this close to free agency and he wants to explore all his options. One or the other. So he may not want to not play for the Mets, but he wants to see, quote unquote, what's out there. Well, what he knows that's on the table right now is $325 million for 10 years in the greatest city in the world to play baseball in, with an owner who's got deep pockets on a team that's going to be very good year in and year out. This is smart. This team's going to be good, the Mets. They have resources, they have money, and they play in New York. They're going to be good. So he knows he's going to be on a competitive team, which he did not know that every year on Cleveland. He can win a championship every year with the Mets. And his response to an offer of 10 years, $325 is 12 for $385. That does not strike me as a play. And remember, the deadline's in 36 hours. Because according to Lindor, who made sure we all knew about it, he was not going to negotiate after opening day because somehow, some way, being paid $400 million to play baseball is a distraction. That's hard to take. It's hard to take. I have to be fair. It's hard to take. Betts signed during the season. Betts wanted out of Boston. I know people don't want to think that. They think that the Red Sox did a terrible job. Red Sox did not do a terrible job. You want to make an argument that 4 years ago the Red Sox could have locked them up? All right, I guess you could make that argument. Although 4 years ago locking up players past their free agency and making them lifetime players on your team, not many teams did that with their stars. A couple. Trout signed a long-term deal, but not many did it. It's almost a new phenomenon. These big contracts to buying out, like a Tatis. Betts did not want to play in Boston. Betts wanted to spin it in which he was in a situation here where he can say and put the blame on the Red Sox because he doesn't want to get booed every time he walks into downtown Boston, Massachusetts, whenever that might be. Interleague, championships. He don't want to be booed. He won a championship for him, did a great job, and he had a right to leave. But Betts does not have a right to sit there and blame it on the Red Sox. Well, they didn't, they had plenty of times to sign me, they didn't sign me. He did not want to play for Boston. They could have offered him $500 million. Betts wanted to get out. He did not want to play in that city. And although the Red Sox were not going to go to $400 or $500 million, they had no chance of signing him anyway. And I'm getting a sneaky suspicion that the same sort of thing might be developing here with Lindor. I don't know if Lindor in this spot, really down deep, he's got 36 hours to prove me wrong. I don't know if Lindor here wants to sign with this team. And I'll tell you something right now. I know there's not going to be a ton of fans in the ballpark. Okay, I get that. So it's not like he's going to be booed by 45,000, rough New York fans. I get that. There's 8,000 people in the ballpark the first probably third of the season. So they're going to be quiet. I understand that. But the Met fan is going to be pro-Cohen on this, and they're not going to be pro-Lindor. This is not going to be a situation where they're going to be calling up talk radio, blaming on Cohen. We'll give him $500 million. They're not going to do that. The Met fan knows that $325 million for 10 years for Lindor is a superlative contract. And if he really wants to be here and play in New York, he'd sign it. Tweak it. You know what? We have the framework of a deal. Can we do this? Can we do that? How about putting this in, putting that in? But we have a framework of a deal. Instead, he came back, gave me $60 million more guaranteed for 2 years when I'll be 40. That doesn't sound like to me that a guy wants to be a Met. Now, again, he's got 36 hours to prove me wrong. But if he starts the year, and again, there's not many fans, but if he starts the year and the Mets are struggling and he's, 3 for 45, which I don't think is going to happen because he's a hell of a player. But, he's going to put some pressure on himself. He wants to prove that he's worth the money. He's going to get some grief if, in fact, he doesn't sign this. If, in fact, he starts the year and he starts off sluggishly and the Mets do not play well, he's going to get pounded. He's going to get – this is not Cleveland, where that's a good sports town, Cleveland, but, the Indians are sort of on the back burner. The Cavs, obviously the Browns. This is not the same in New York. I mean, football is huge here, and the Jets have the second pick and the Giants. I get that. But the Mets and the Yankees right now, they've been basically in the back pages for about 4 months. And this is going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. Now, I might be wrong, and maybe here, before the opener on Thursday night against Washington at 7:09, maybe he'll sign. That is possible. Maybe he will sign. I can't answer that, and I might be wrong. But my point of the matter is that I don't like when players try to, confuse the message. Here is the message right now that you are learning from Lindor. By his body language, by rumors that he didn't want to come to New York, by his spring training deadline, by his refusal of even, countering. How do you counter $325 million? How do you counter that? Yeah, give me $400 million and I'll think about it. How do you counter that? The body language, the words are telling me he wants nothing to do with New York City, which is fine. Now, the Mets didn't know that when they traded for him. I don't think anybody did. We all thought New York, wow, Lindor, beloved. How does he not sign here? People have told me that he's got his eyes on the Dodgers. Now, the problem with the Dodgers is they have Seager. But the last note on this, and then we'll do a read and then I'll come back and do something else. The last note on this is what the Dodgers want. Because the Dodgers, all these shortstops who are available in the offseason, Baez, Correa, Story, Lindor, Seager, they're going to hurt each other. When you have 5 available that these teams can pick. All right, you're too much, I'll go here. Oh, you're too much too? I'll go here. You're too much? Well, I'll go there. You're too much? I'll go over here. The Dodgers, if Lindor didn't sign and Seager asked for outlandish money, then go right to Lindor. Give him the money. A little less. Bottom line is, if you're a Met fan, I don't think you're going to get Lindor signed by Thursday at 1 o'clock. All right, let's do a live, and I'll come back and give you a couple of things. Playing sports. Music, Kali, if you got it there, playing sports without some form of protection